It gives me great pleasure to introduce here tonight Donna Bauer. Thank you for joining us and having this occasion tonight, Donna.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you all for being here. It is great to see you again. And I appreciate each one of you being on. And I am excited to share with you tonight about partials, because partials is absolutely one of my favorite techniques to use with notes. So what I'd like to share, first of all, is I want to tell you why partials are so powerful. And that's not a cliche. I mean, of all of the strategies that you can use for notes, you can make more money and accomplish more things by using partial probably than anything else. So I want to go over some of those with you, and we'll talk about why partials work and why they help you to make more money, why they help for you to create a safe investment. And then I'm going to share with you the problem with partials, because there is a big problem. But don't worry, because I'm also going to show you the solution. Okay, so that's kind of the game plan, and I think that you're going to really enjoy this. I know I'm going to have fun sharing it with you. So without further ado, let's get started. I am curious. I hope this, it seems like okay, we'll just have to do that by hand. No worries. Okay, so why should you do partials? Well, the truth is because they provide a tremendous opportunity for you to be super creative, and you can accomplish all kinds of goals. They allow you to safely invest in notes that you otherwise would not invest in. I think that's probably the most common reason for using a partial, because many of you probably know that when you sometimes you'll have like 100% loan to value, and don't worry, I'm going to explain this, and you might have a note that is 100%, and that would be very unsafe. But by buying a partial, I'm going to show you how you can actually create equity. And so that's probably the most common reason for using a partial. A lot of times we simply find that it's much more palatable for the note seller. If you have, let's say, a long-term note, maybe a 30-year note, those typically take the largest discount in order for an investor to get their rate of return. And a lot of times that's hard for a note seller to swallow. But on the other hand, if you just buy part of that note, even though the investor is getting the same return or even a greater return, it doesn't seem like as much to the note seller. So a lot of times doing a partial will help get your deal accepted just to begin with. The other thing that I really like is that partials also create an opportunity for the future. Because what happens, it's really crazy, this happens a lot. A note seller will sell a partial, and then seriously, 2 or 3 months later, they come back and they decide they want to sell the tail end too. And so what happens is you can make twice the income off of it, because you've done it in two different pieces. So I really like that. They can also be used to funnel large amounts of cash into your, what could be a traditional IRA, but I would recommend you use a Roth IRA. And we will go over exactly how you can do that. And if you're dealing with a very large note, one advantage for the note seller is that if you buy partials, then it allows them to spread out their taxes over time. So it can be a great tax savings. And in fact, if I'm working with a real large note that somebody wants to sell, I usually tell them, hey, why don't we just start out with a partial? And that way you can spread out your taxes. And I always tell them I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, but they can check with their own CPA to see how that works. Another thing that they are often used for is in the non-performing note world. A lot of investors use partials in order to recapitalize. When they've got all of their initial capital invested in non-performing notes, they will get them reperforming and then maybe just sell part of the note, enough to get their investment back out right away. And I'll show you some examples of that. That's very popular in the non-performing note world. It also allows you to build a very substantial note portfolio without any of your own cash invested, or just a little bit of your own cash. And one thing that I really like is when you do a partial, I'll show you how it allows you to keep the lion's share of the profit. You see, when you think about it, you discount that note. If you just flip that note to another investor, the investor gets the advantage of that discount that you negotiated. But if you only sell part of it to an investor, that way you keep the tail end and you'll get a windfall if it pays off early. Don't worry, I'm going to show you an example of that, but I'm just trying to give you an idea what you're in store for tonight. And last but absolutely not least is that partials can help you to really skyrocket your rate of return. So notes are powerful. I love that picture, don't you? that says it all. So why would you want to do partials? Well, with partials, the note sellers are happier, your investors are happier, you close more deals, so you're probably a lot happier. Your investments are safer, you make higher returns, you make more money, and basically everybody's happier. And that's how I like things to be. I like win, win, win across the board. And with partials, you can really accomplish that. Okay, so let's talk about what a partial actually is. This is just a little example that I made up, and I purposely chose a very small mortgage so that you could see that even on a small note, this still is worthwhile to consider a partial. So let's say that you have a first mortgage that you can buy, and the balance owed on that is $20,750. And you can buy 240 payments of $200 each for $12,340. Now, if you plug that into your HP calculator, you will see that if you invest this, you're going to get a 19% rate of return, which is pretty good, okay? But you don't have the money to buy it. So what are you going to do? Well, we're going to sell it to Irene Investor. And if you recall what I have taught you, you're going to buy low from Sam Seller for the $12,340. We said that that's a 19% yield or rate of return. YTM is yield to maturity. And that means that if it doesn't pay off early, if it goes to maturity, then you would wind up with a 19% yield. You're going to see some examples that if it does pay off early, what happens to your rate of return? Goes through the roof. But back to this. So you have this under contract that you can buy this note at a 19% yield. What do you have to do if you want to sell this to an investor and make some money? All you need to do is find an investor that is looking for a lower rate of return than 19%, okay? Because the lower the return that they want, the more that they will pay for the note. So let's say you have Irene Investor and you know that she likes to get a 15% return on her investments. Well, if she wants to buy this at 15%, then she would pay $15,188. Buy low, sell high, and you put $2,848 cash in your pocket. Okay, that's simple enough, isn't it? buy low, sell high, simple transaction, and you just made almost $3,000 even on a little $20,000 mortgage. So let's take a look at this. You have available 240 monthly payments of $200 each. The total balance is $20,725. You get this under contract that you can buy all 240 payments for $12,340. Now, what would happen if Irene only wants to buy 10 years of payments? What if she says, man, I'm getting up there. I don't know if I'm going to be around for another 20 years. Do you have anything for 10 years? Well, what if we just sold her 120 payments? If she wants a 15% return for 120 payments, that means she would pay $12,400. Okay. Well, you're going to make 60 bucks. Maybe that's not such a good idea. What do you think? I mean, $60 is better than nothing, but hold your horses. What happens to the last 10 years of payments? You get to keep them because you're buying the entire note, 20 years of payments for $12,340. You're only selling the first 10 years of payments for $12,400. So you make $60 on that sale, but you keep the last 10 years of payments. So that's pretty sweet, right? Now, why does this work? Well, it's very interesting. It works because of the time value of money. And quite frankly, this concept is what allows you to make a lot of money with notes. And when you get your mind wrapped around it and you understand how that works, there's so much that you can do. First of all, it is a fact that when you're looking at these 20 years of payments, the farther out in time that each payment is due, the less value it has today. So theoretically, if you wanted to know the value of this note, you could calculate the value of each one of those 240 payments. And then you could add them all together and you should wind up with the current balance owed on the note, okay? But what is so cool is that the farther out you go, the less value they have. So it becomes very easy to keep the last, let's say, 6 payments. So you flip, and when you flip a note, you sell all but the last 6 payments. And what happens is those aren't worth very much. So it's barely going to affect your purchase price. And then what happens is in a couple years, because typically notes pay off in about 7 years. And so if it's already 3 years old and in 4 years or less, it is probably going to pay off anyway. And so you're going to get a nice little windfall representing the value of the 6 payments you kept. And what's so cool is you don't have a dime of your own money invested in it. Do you see that? And because they hardly have any value today, you can still give Irene Investor a 15% return. It barely affects the price that she's going to pay for it. So what you want to do is start using that to your advantage. I call this an arbitrage. We'll go over that, okay? An arbitrage is when you earn risk-free profit because you've taken advantage of the differential in pricing for the same asset. What the heck does that mean? It means that you're on the public market. When you're talking to Sam Seller, when Sam Seller calls up in response to one of your letters, you're going to be able to discount it and you'll be able to buy that note at a very low price. But what you're going to do is turn around and sell it on the secondary market to an investor. Well, an investor wants a higher rate of return. And so what happens is that you can actually make a profit on them. You close them simultaneously. You are going to buy low with the note seller. You are going to sell high to the investor, which will give him a nice rate of return. And you've done this risk-free, and you keep the profit that comes out of the middle. Do you all see that? So that's what an arbitrage is. And you have no money invested. I love making money when I don't have any money invested. That's the best way to do it. So that means you're making infinite returns. So one of the best ways that you can build wealth without your own cash is to acquire pieces of notes with none of your own money invested in them. Like, I mean, I would just try to keep some payments out of each note that you flip. You could buy or you could create a whole note, and then you sell enough of that note, enough of the payments to cover your investment, and then you keep the tail end. Okay. And at a future time, after your investor collects their payments, you're going to start receiving the payments that you kept. You have no money invested in it. And since you have no money invested in it, your rate of return is infinite. Okay, so just think about that. If you did that on every note that you flipped or every private loan that you created and then wanted to cash out of and sell to an investor, it is a great way to create cash with none of your own money invested. So let me show you an example of how the numbers work on this. So let's say you have a $71,000 note. There are 180 payments owed on it, and you can buy the whole note, all 180 payments, for $46,000. And this is actually a note that one of my students did. He came to, it was one of my very first academies many years ago. I showed this example and he just made up his mind, I am going to do that deal. And he went out looking for a note. And he called me up and he said, look, I got this lady. She's moving to Europe and she's getting rid of all her real estate. And apparently she had just sold this real estate and just carried back the note. I'm sure the person put a nice down payment down and made a nice down payment. And then she created this 180 payment mortgage, 71,000. So Kurt calls me up and wants to know if I have a buyer for it. Well, at that time, I called an institutional buyer and I told them the deal. And they said, look, this is a brand new note. We don't want to buy the whole thing, but we would buy the first 100 payments. And I said, well, okay, great. How much would you give me for 100 payments? They said $50,000. So do you see what happened? He has this under contract to buy the entire note for 46,000. We're going to sell just 100 of the 180 payments for 50,000. So he makes 4,000 up front and he gets to keep the last 80 payments, which is about $45,000. Only what is really cool is it wasn't really Kurt's money. It was his self-directed IRA. Now think about that. Technically, his IRA would not have to have any money invested in it, but the IRS says that you have to show some consideration. So let's say he put $100 down. I'll tell you what I do is I have a special clause that I put in my note purchase agreement, and I'll have my IRA send $100, whatever it is I'm putting down, as earnest money. That is my consideration for buying the note. And normally you don't put any earnest money down to buy a note, but I only do that if it's an IRA deal where I want to have some of my own money, the IRA's money, invested. Okay. So for $100, your IRA can buy the whole note and flip it and put cash in. And this is not considered a contribution. That's profit from a deal. Isn't that cool? Anybody have any questions on that?
Perfect, Donna. That's perfect timing. I was about to say that there are a few here. You might have answered this, but Catherine was asking, what if the note pays off in the first 10 years?
Great question, Catherine. Okay, if the note pays off in the first 10 years, so are you saying 100, if it pays off in 10 years at 120 months, then in that case, the institution would already be paid off. And so if it doesn't pay off until 120 months, so I just get whatever the payoff is. But let's say, what if they pay off after 50 payments? Anytime before the institutional buyer collected their 100 payments. I think that's what you meant. Okay, so what happens is that you give the note seller an amortization schedule. Well, excuse me, the borrower already has an amortization schedule. You give your if I'm the one that is keeping the tail end of the payments, I am going to give an amortization schedule to my investor who is buying these first 100 payments. And what that does is it shows how much is owed to that investor at any given time. Because each time they receive a payment, the amount that is owed to the investor goes down. And so at any time that it pays off, you simply go down the amortization schedule. Oh, they collected 50 payments. They're still owed this much money. And so then you go to the original amortization schedule that went with the note when they first created it. Let's say you've got the borrower's $100,000, or, well, it couldn't be that. Let's say, I'm not going to make up numbers. I can't do that quick. But you've got the borrower's payoff. You deduct what is owed to the investor, and whatever is left is what goes to you, and that represents the tail end that you kept. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, good. And we're going to go over that. Many of you know I'm having a workshop on how this all works, and that's going to be December 2nd. And I hope you guys can make that, because I'll be able to give you actual amortization schedules, and I'll show you how it all works. Okay. Okay.
Donna, just a couple of other questions we do have here.
Go ahead.
Donna, Andrea asks, I just started Donna's note training online, and she finished module 1, and she's doing the homework, doing good. Is partials part of that training, or is this an add-on that I need?
The partials is part of the training. What is not part of the training, because it's brand new, is what I'm going to teach at the options workshop. You do have a section on options that is included on the new online academy, but it is for a different purpose. So this is for flipping seller carrybacks, what I'm going to be teaching at this option one. So you'd want to have both of them. So even if you've got the online academy, I highly recommend that you try to come to the workshop.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then Donna Joan asks, and this is something you might have been planning to do later. She knows this meeting is for partials and the associated workshop, but she's also interested in hearing about your other training. So maybe you can address that later.
Okay, I will address it later. And I'll also mention that you can email info@thenotebuyer.com, and Matthew handles all of that for me. So he can also help you set that, get that set up, but I'll address it when we get to the end of the thing. And thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
And then Donna Jamie asks, love that IRA deal, don't we all? If you do several, could the IRS say you are, quote, doing business, unquote, in your IRA versus doing simple passive investing?
That
And
is a
she's
great
thankful.
Okay. That is a great question, and we'll cover that in more detail at the Saturday workshop. But in general, what you want to do is, like, I wouldn't do one of these every month. I would not just do straight flips every month. What I do is a variety of different creative strategies so that it does not look like I'm in the business of flipping notes in my IRA. My IRA is investing in the notes. And so and that's very clear if I'm doing a variety of different strategies. Now I'm going to add something to this. When Dick Dassage used to tell me $100 earnest money was sufficient. I recently at OREA was talking to John Heyer. John feels like it's a good idea to have 20% of the necessary funds come from your IRA. He said it's not a law or a rule, but he just thinks it's a good procedure. We will talk a lot more about that at the Saturday workshop because there's different ways that you can get around that. But basically, I really encourage you. There is no technique that I would do as a cookie cutter in your IRA, because then it does look like you're doing business in your IRA. On the other hand, so for me, all of the notes that I outright flip all of these years, I have been doing outside my IRA, and I just pay ordinary income on it. The notes that I'm going to hold, I put inside my IRA. And for me, that has been a very easy way to keep that division. I'm going to share something with you that a lot of people are not aware of, and maybe you have if you've been a student for a while. But if you have a Roth IRA and you are 59 and a half years old, and it is seasoned for 5 years. So if you're 54 years old or approaching 54 years old, even if you have no money to put in the IRA, at least open it with $100 or whatever it takes so that it can start seasoning. That is going to be one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you if you don't already have a Roth IRA. Well, what happens is, once it's seasoned, if you are 59 and a half years old, seasoned for 5 years, you could do any of your deals, anything that I teach you, inside your self-directed IRA. Theoretically, the next day you could pull the profit out tax-free. Now, would you want to do it like that? No, because I think that might be a red flag. But knowing you can do it, like for instance, what you might do, let's say you flip a note and you've got 10,000 in there. Well, I might take out 12,000 5 days before I close, knowing I don't take the same amount out, but I take it out before I close. So then it doesn't look like, wow, she just made this money and now she's taking it out. So if you are creative on how you do it, you don't want it to be a red flag. I mean, that's the bottom line. But that is an extremely valuable thing to do. If you are not 59 and a half and don't have a seasoned Roth, then you might want to do it the way I do. And for flipping notes, do those outside of the IRA, pay ordinary income on it, and then keep the others, the ones you're investing in, keep those in your Roth IRA. Or it also a traditional, but with the Roth IRA, you're not going to pay any taxes on the profit. Okay, good question.
And Donna, the last question we have for right now, and I think you're going to address this in a little bit. Rhett asks, are there any additional documents that you need to have signed at closing when you're doing partials?
We will cover that. Well, let me put it this way. You absolutely need to use my partial purchase agreement. You do not want to use a regular agreement. However, keep in mind, I told you there's a problem with the partials. And so you're going to want to come to the Saturday workshop so that I can give you all the documents and everything you need instead of doing the partial. Okay, effectively, you'll accomplish the same thing, but it is not considered a partial purchase.
And Rhett, you do just want to be careful with that documentation. That's very, very important. And I do not work for Donna, but I can tell you that she does have the best documentation that I've seen with regards to partial contracts. So, okay, that gets us all caught up.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a great way to build future cash flow. Please excuse my throat lozenge. Normally, I would not do this when I'm on a presentation, but I don't think my voice is going to hold out without it. So please excuse me. Okay, I want to show you an example. If you are a rehabber, how you can maximize your rehab profits with a partial. So let's say you have this situation where you want to sell your property to a tenant buyer for $100,000. But the problem is you still owe the bank money. What are you going to do? Because the bank is going to want to be paid off. Oops, wrong one. What in the heck did I do? There we go. Okay. So let's say that you would like to sell this house for $100,000, amortized over 30 years. So the payment would be $733.76 at 8% interest. Okay, well, you could sell 115 payments for $50,000, and let's say you have a $40,000 loan to the bank, your rehab loan. If you sold $50,000 to cover that $40,000 rehab loan, you'd make $10,000 up front, even after paying off the loan. And you keep the last 239 payments, over $175,000. Do you remember when we first started, I said that a partial allows you to keep the lion's share of the profit? Remember that? This is a perfect example because these payments, that's $175,000. And if you had sold the entire $100,000 loan that you just created in order to pay off the bank loan, would have given all that money away. You would have taken a discount on those remaining payments. And there's no need to. Only sell as many payments as you need because now you're taking the discount. You sell enough to pay off the loan. And maybe, let's say, hey, you want to go on a big trip and take all your family, you need $20,000, sell more than 115. Get out your handy calculator and figure out what you need. Sell however many payments you need to raise the amount of cash that you want. And then you keep the rest. This is a great, great strategy for rehabbers. Okay, let's use this same example. You still owe the bank $40,000 on one of your rentals, and you're going to sell the property to the tenant buyer for $100,000. Okay. You sell the 115 payments for $50,000. You paid off the bank loan. Now you've got $10,000 in cash, and you are going to keep the last 239 payments. What does that do for you? It allows you to retire. So if you are a landlord and you are tired of dealing with the tenants, the trash, and the toilets, but at the same time, you owe the bank money on the house, go ahead and sell that property to your tenant, sell enough of the note to pay off the bank, and you just keep the tail end of the payments. And that way, you still have your retirement. So notes can be the landlord's retirement plan. Do you see that? And so you still have the safety of that investment. You know the property. You have the safety of that investment. It is secure. And yet you don't have to deal with any of the headaches of owning the property. So for landlords, partials are a great way to convert properties to great passive income. Do y'all see that?
And, you know, you asked about self-directed IRA investing earlier. That's another reason notes are such a great investment for your self-directed IRA. It's hard to get much more passive, and it eliminates some of the concern with IRS regulations and such.
Exactly. Thank you. So a lot of note buyers, particularly if they've been buying up pools of non-performing notes, they've got a lot of money tied up in what we call reperformers, and they don't have a lot of equity. For example, somebody buys a non-performing note, and maybe they sit down with the borrower and they modify it and they get the borrower back on track. And now the borrower has been making payments, establishing a new pay history. Well, if they buy a whole pool of these, now all their capital is all invested in these notes, and they're waiting for them to be seasoned enough or paid down enough so they can sell the note. Well, an alternative is to just sell part of the note. That way it creates equity to where the investor feels really good about it, and it gets them, allows them to pull their cash out at the same time. Let me show you how that works. Let's say you buy this defaulted note for $40,000 and you rewrite it. You sit down with the borrower and you rewrite it for $100,000 amortized over 360 months, 8% interest, payments of $733.36. And now you season it for 6 months. You could turn around and sell 115 payments, not the whole note, but sell 115 payments for the $50,000. This is the same example, same numbers that I used before, just a different application. So you've bought the note for $40,000. That's your investment. You've restructured a new deal. You sell 115 payments for $50,000. You not only get your $40,000 investment back, but you got $10,000 profit that you can go enjoy your hard labor. But more importantly, you keep $175,000 worth of payments on the tail end. So you're going to get, after your investor collects 115 payments, you will collect the last 239 payments. So let's look at this. Is this a good deal for you? You think it is? Would you do that deal? You got $10,000 right now. You have a future cash flow of 239 payments over 175,000. And best of all, you got your initial $40,000 investment back. So that's a great deal for you. Is it a good deal for Irene? A lot of people ask me this. Why would an investor be willing to do that? Well, if you sold those at a discount, you could give the investor whatever yield they want. Irene wanted a 12% yield. Do you see that since you only sold part of the note, her payments are secured by a 50% investment to value on the property? Do you see that? So, and what's even better is not only her payments that she bought are in first position. So if there is a foreclosure, aside from taxes and mechanic liens and stuff like that, she gets paid off first before you ever get a dime, okay? But besides that, the other piece of that is, if this borrower defaulted and you had $175,000 that you're going to collect on the tail end, are you going to walk away and let Irene have to deal with that? Heck no. You're going to step in, you're going to fix the default, rewrite it, do whatever you have to do, make payments to Irene in the meantime, because you're going to protect your interest. So actually, this is even safer for Irene than buying the whole note, because she knows that you're going to protect your interest by stepping in the event that there is a default. Do you have to step in? Totally depends on how you write your documents, but you can make it either way. You can make the property the sole I can't think of the word, recourse. It would be the sole recourse that you can just go after the property, that you're not making any guarantee, or you can guarantee it. But seriously, if you've got that much money and you know how to do notes, it'd be kind of foolish to let it go. Okay, so to recap, you're going to buy the note at a discount. You're going to restructure the note, season it, say, for 6 months. Then you're going to sell part of the note to pull your money out. And you are going to keep the back end of the note for future income. Another arbitrage. And that is a perfect example of using partials to build tremendous wealth with very little money. Any questions on these? So I basically showed you, I think it was 4 different scenarios using the same numbers. That's what I mean. Partials allow you to create various solutions, or solutions to various situations. Any questions, Bill?
Just one question since the last time. Deb asks, who services the note on a partial purchase?
Okay. If I'm doing a partial purchase in my IRA and it is a performing note, then I don't use a servicer. Unless if I'm buying a note where the note calls for the taxes and insurance to be escrowed, I always use a servicer. Always, always, always. Now, sometimes when I've bought a note like that, I've given the borrower the option. Do you just want to, either we'll use a servicer, or if you want to just take over paying them yourself, that's fine. And sometimes they really prefer that it was really the note seller that wanted it escrowed. You do not want to do the bookkeeping for that. Plus, I'm sure it's probably a federal law. It's certainly a state law in those places. If you are collecting money and escrowing it, taxes and insurance, that's really the payor's money that you are escrowing for them. And you have to have a license to do that. So you absolutely want to use a servicer then. If you are buying a non-performing note in your IRA, I would absolutely use a servicer. But generally speaking, if I am buying a performing note inside my self-directed IRA, I do not use a servicer, not unless I'm escrowing for taxes and insurance. Okay. You're muted, Bill.
Yep, I saw that. A couple of others that have come up now, Donna. Is it more valuable to a note buyer to have a third-party servicer, or doesn't it matter? Catherine asks.
I always like, when I am buying a note, for there to be a servicer. And the reason is you have a third party that is verifying what the pay history actually was. So I like that. I think that is a great idea. And then if you sell the note, the new investor can decide, do they want to keep the servicing? Do they want to change it to a different servicer? Or do they just want to service it themselves? But I think that it definitely adds value to have a third party servicer.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple others here. Jonathan asks, and I will put a little of this information in the chat here, Donna. I took your course at the Donald Trump Real Estate Convention in the early 2000s. Would I be able to purchase an updated program from you, and how?
Absolutely. That was a long time ago. So here's the situation. If you have purchased since January 1st, then I can give you the numbers tonight. I'd like to wait until I get to the end, if you don't mind. But if it has been before January 1st of 2020, then your program is so old that you need to get the entire new program. But I will give you a very good deal on it. But I would ask you, since it's before January 1st of 2020, please email Donna@thenotebuyer.com. And my assistant, Matthew, will get right in touch with you, and he will prepare a special link so that you don't have to pay the going price that's on the website. And he'll get you well taken care of and give you a really good deal. And this is a great time to do it because I've got the new online academy. And we actually introduced that last year at OREA last year, but I never really put it out and made a grand opening for my list. So if you don't have the online academy, you might want to upgrade. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but if by any chance you're not on until the very end, you can always email info or Donna@thenotebuyer.com and we'll definitely take care of you. Okay. Okay, we need to move on.
And Donna, John asks, if you have a servicer, can you give them just copies of the note, etc., and retain the originals? Or does the servicer require that they hold the originals?
I believe that varies from servicer to servicer, but most of the people that I know, they keep the originals themselves. I'll tell you when you would want to put the original note is if you're doing a partial and you get a servicer, because one person owns the part of it, and then let's say you keep the tail end, you might want the servicer to hold the original note so that in the event of an early payoff, the money gets distributed and the note and the deed of trust can be marked, paid in full and delivered. Because in some states, if you don't have the original deed of trust to reconvey the property back, you don't get your payoff. You would have to get a bond for that. And so if I were holding the tail end of a deed of trust in California, say, I would absolutely want the note held by the original note and the original deed of trust, I would want held by a servicer. Okay.
And that gets us all caught up.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I'd like to show you a couple of examples on how you can use partials to buy the seller carrybacks. And this is the big thing that I want to teach at the workshop, okay? But this was before my new technique. This was a deal I did a long time ago. This was secured by an office in a warehouse in Florida. This was back when I was buying performing second mortgages. It had a fair market value of $235,000. There was a first of $133,000, a second of $25,000. So it had a very safe loan to value of 67%. At the time, the note seller, he needed money for inventory for his business. And so he was willing to sell the second mortgage. It was a 5-year, 10% interest only, 60 payments of $208.34 with a $25,000 balloon. At the time that he decided to sell it, there were 39 payments left, plus the balloon. Well, what I did in this case is, I bought the 39 payments that were left, but I split the balloon. A lot of times you hear today of like some of the banks and institutional buyers, they'll buy payments up to the balloon, but a lot of them will not buy into the balloon. In this case, because he wanted $10,000, I bought all the payments and part of the balloon. That was over a 30% return. Can you imagine? You buy a note and without any shenanigans, no early payoffs, nothing special happening, you sit back, you collect the payments, and you get a 30% return. paying like clockwork. I mean, you can do that when you are marketing for notes and finding your own notes to buy. You're not using a middle person. You're holding them for yourself. You can get these kind of returns. So what happened here, and it's why I like to share this deal, even though it was a long time ago, the Florida Department of Transportation wanted to run a highway through the property that I was holding this mortgage on. And so one day, literally, I get a call from someone from the Department of Transportation, and they want to know what's the payoff on this note. So 8 months after I invested this $10,000, I receive a payoff of over $15,000, plus I had collected the monthly payment. So on a $10,000 investment in 8 months, I made $6,000, which works out to be an 88% return. And that's what I mean when I say, when you keep part of the note and it pays off early, your rate of return skyrockets. I mean, even if you keep the whole note, if you bought a note at a discount and it pays off early, your rate of return goes up. And the bottom line is, the more of a discount that you bought that note, the higher your rate of return will be. Okay. Okay, so I have showed you how you can keep part of the note just as a great investment for yourself. And then I've also showed you why it's beneficial when you're flipping a seller carryback, just because the borrower doesn't want to sell the whole thing, why it's to your advantage just to buy part of it. So now what I want to do is I want to show you how to use partials for safety, because honestly, this is why most people buy partials. So equity is absolutely the key to safety in your note deals. The more equity in a deal, the safer your note investment. So let's take a look at this. Let's look at a worst case scenario. If you buy this note and it goes into foreclosure and you can't work anything out with the borrower, and you wind up, you get the house back at the foreclosure sale. So you've got you invested $40,000 in this note. You want to be able to drop the price. It's worth $100,000, but what if you sold it at a fire sale for $80,000? Wouldn't it sell a lot quicker? The more you drop the price, the faster it's going to sell. So you want to have enough equity in there that you can play with it, that you can drop the sale price as much as you need to in order to get a quick sale. And you still have plenty of room to recoup your investment and any expenses that you had. So do you see that you could sell that house for $80,000, worth $100,000, you get it back at the sale, you sell it for $80,000, not only do you get your $40,000 investment back, but you also made $40,000 on it. Okay. And that works like that because of the amount of equity. Well, the equity can be created. Well, I'm jumping ahead. The more equity, the safer the investment. That's the important takeaway. But you might be thinking, hey, aren't a lot of properties overfinanced these days? And they very well could be. But so what you do in that case is you only buy part of the note. When you buy just part of the note, it creates more equity behind you, and it makes the part that you bought really safe. So looking at this, let's say that it's a $100,000 house and there is a $60,000 mortgage on it. Well, if you bought the mortgage right now, as it sits right there, that's a 60% loan to value. But what if you thought that was too high? I mean, most people like a 60% loan to value, but if you're thinking the market's really risky right now and you want to be even safer, only buy half of the note. So if you just buy $30,000 worth of that note, that's a 30% loan to value. So now you've got a really super safe loan to value. Do you see that? So you create equity by buying a smaller piece of the note. Any questions?
None at the moment, Donna.
Okay. So partials often allow you to buy notes that you would have otherwise turned down. And if you wouldn't mind owning the property, plenty of equity often offsets lots of issues. Like even if there's like no down payment, maybe the people have poor credit, the note is not seasoned. Plus you can buy part of it now, like I said before, and you can buy the rest later. Like you could even say, you know, I'm kind of worried about their pay history. I'll buy 2 years of payments, and if they pay on time, I'll look at buying the rest of the note. So it really helps you to take a test drive on a note and decide if you want to buy any more or not. So that partials really allow you to create safety in a note. Okay.
Donna, Randy just have one question here.
Okay.
When, how, and why would you want to receive the first 10 to 25% of payments and sell the last?
Repeat that question again, because I don't think I heard it right.
When, how, and why would you want to receive the first
Okay.
10 to 25% of payments and sell the last?
You would not want to do that. I'm very glad that you asked that, because if I gave that impression, it's not correct. You want to, let's go back to this. I am going to only buy half of that note. The note seller's keeping the rest. So here, I didn't flip that note to anybody. I had some money to invest. I thought that 60,000 was too high of a loan to value. So instead, I just bought 30% of it. But I did not flip it to anybody else. You don't want to keep the beginning payments and sell the tail end. I have heard of people doing that. It's not something that I would likely do. I don't do that. I'll sell the beginning payments and keep the tail end, but I'm not going to sell that tail end to somebody else. You want the tail end because if it pays off early, that's how you're going to get your windfall. Okay. That's what gives you the extra profit. Okay. Okay. So now I've showed you all the reasons. I hope you guys are anxious to do partials. You see, it's safer. You can make more money. You can do all kinds of different deals. But why should you not do partials? Because the SEC frowns on them. And I often wondered what an SEC agent would look like. Do you think it'd look like that guy? So what they do,
I think that guy probably looks a little more friendly.
probably, you're probably right, Bill. So the issue that they have is if 2 or more people own the same note, then they consider that a security. And if you are selling a security, guess what you've got to have? You need a securities license. Do you see that? So that's a problem. I mean, I don't know any of my, I've got a few students who have security licenses, but not very many.
Drop it.
Okay, so how do you get around the SEC issue when you're flipping a seller carryback? Because you sell it to a bank or an institution that has a license. So I started before 1990 buying notes, and I did a lot of partials back then and sold most of them to private investors. I used my partial purchase agreement. I did more partials than I did whole flips. But then when the SEC seemed to be coming down and getting much stricter about it, what I did was whenever I really needed to do a partial, I would simply sell it to a bank, which is very limiting. I mean, even today, a lot of times, if I know that the note seller will never accept our offer for a whole purchase, then I'm going to have to make it a partial, and I don't want to get in trouble with a partial, so then I will sell it to a bank. Okay. Or I will use this new strategy. And this is something I actually did my first one in 2016. And it was for a seller carryback. And the strategy is to use an option agreement. Okay. And I got to tell you that it took me a long time. This was perfected. I did the first deal on it in 2016, but it was over several years that I kept tweaking it and tweaking it, because you have to be very careful how it's worded, because you want to protect both parties without having both of them have this an interest in the note at the same time. And that's not easy, because let's say you have an investor who's going to collect the first half of the payments and you're going to keep the last half. Well, if there's a default, are you willing to walk away from your last half? Heck no. And the only way that you can make sure that two people don't own it at the same time is if you're willing to walk away. And that wasn't good enough for me. So I very carefully came up with a way that at no time do two people own the note at the same time. If you are wanting to flip seller carrybacks to effectively purchase just part of a seller carryback, the way that you do it is you purchase the entire note, and then you grant the seller an option to purchase the tail end. So you're going to take title to the whole note. Okay. And at any given time, if anything happens on that note, you own the whole note. But the seller has an option that at any time he can exercise and buy back part of the note as long as he pays you off. Remember, I think it was Kathy that asked about the amortization schedule. So if the seller said, hey, I want to buy this note back, it's going into default, and I think that you're going to wind up with the property, and I don't want you to get the property. I want the property. This was my investment. I want to pay you off. Then the note seller would exercise his option to buy it, and he would go down the amortization schedule, and whatever is still owed to you, he would write you a check for that amount. And then you're out of the picture. And then, and only then, he becomes the owner of the rest of the note. So by very, very carefully structuring this, it is possible to make sure that two people never own the note at the same time. And I really want to stress this. Do not think that you can download an option and do what I just said, because it's not that simple. There are so many nuances with notes that if you are not familiar with them, you wouldn't know what you don't know. You would not see the problem. So that's why this option agreement is so effective and so valuable, because the average person would never figure it out. They might think they did, but if push came to shove, I bet they didn't. And I do need to give this disclaimer. I am not an attorney, but I have a lot more street smart on notes than most attorneys. But that being said, I have sat down with several SEC attorneys, and I have gone over this in detail. And while there is no guarantee, they can't promise me that that the SEC would never question this. But if they did, my documentation is such that they should be able to present an excellent case. It is so clear, and you'll see this when you come to the Saturday workshop, that anybody who reads this would have a hard time saying, hey, both of these people on the note at the same time. It simply does not happen. Okay. So if you want to learn how you can start taking advantage of these partials, particularly with the seller carrybacks, when you're wanting to buy just a part of a note when somebody responds to your postcard or your letter you sent out, then you want to come to my Saturday workshop. We are going to have a lot of fun. It is going to be really chock full of great information for you. It is Saturday, December 2nd, and it'll be a Zoom call. We will go from 9 to 3 Eastern time. We'll take a break for lunch. The registration is $397, but we've got early bird special, save $100. Make sure to register by November 27th. Okay, and that will save you $100. Let me tell you, that agreement alone is worth $5,000. I mean, seriously, if you are an experienced investor, you will appreciate what is in that note. But I want you to have it because you're my student. I want you to be able to take advantage of the things that I'm doing. And I like sharing, and I'm really proud of it. I'm the first to say, like, it blew me away when I came up with it. I had tried so hard, and when I realized I figured it out, like, I was ecstatic. And so I want you to have that in your toolbox so you can use it as well. So what are we going to cover on the workshop? It includes, that's over 5 hours of detailed instruction, like I said, from 9 to 3 with a break for lunch. I'm going to go over more examples of partials, similar to what we did just now, and show you how you create the partial for safety and high returns. And then, and I'm going to go, I have a case study that I want to use. It is an actual deal that I just closed in August. Okay, I'm going to change the address and the names, but we're going to use the same documentation so you can literally see exactly what I use. And we are going to go line by line, I mean line by line, through the option agreement so you can see what I'm talking about. And when I explain this to you, you're going to go, wow, she's right. At no time do two people own the note at the same time. So we will go completely through this case study. You will get the complete documentation package. It's not just the option agreement you need. You need the election to exercise the option. There's lots of other documents that you're going to want to have. And so I will give you the complete package. You will have the digital electronic version of the documents. They will be Word documents, so you can easily go in and tailor make them to fit your particular transaction. And there also will be a video replay. And then this is on Saturday, December 2nd. The following Friday night, December 8th, we're going to have a follow-up Q&A and our Christmas party. That's become an annual event. Everybody asks about that now. Complete with a Christmas costume contest. And I give away Amazon gift cards to the winners. So be thinking about how you want to dress up for our Christmas party. So, and again, if you register by November 27th, it's only $297. Okay. And you can register now if you go to thenotebuyer.com/option workshop 2023. And it looks like there might be a space in between workshop and 2023, but there's not. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, there's no space, guys. I did put the link in the chat there, and a couple people have already texted me and said that they've already done it. So there's no space there. You can just click the link that I put in the chat for everybody.
Awesome. Okay, so for those of you who are asking about specials and upgrading, if you have bought my system, which would be like my 4 main books. You may have got them, the electronic version, but you all know my legacy materials, my Note Buyer's Master Guide, my Smart Seller Financing, the Making Dollars and Cents with Your Financial Calculator, all the legacy materials. If you have bought those since 2020, okay, then if you want to take advantage of my online academy, you can do that. I guess I ought to tell you about the online academy. So in the past, I've got all of these materials, and I've got the media sets from my Note Buyers Academy, where we went live to a hotel for 4 days, and you would get all of those videos as well, and the manuals for those. Well, what happened was there would be 10 different presentations on how to do a partial. And while if you want to focus on partials, that's a good thing. If you're trying to go through in a systematic way and learn the various strategies, it just wasn't conducive for that. It was like people didn't know, where they should go. So you still have total access to all of those. None of that goes away. But Matthew and I went back and we created an online platform where I take you through each individual strategy. First, where to find notes, then how the Sam and Bill idea, and each strategy of how to evaluate the note, what documentation do you need, how to find investors, how can you use a trust to buy, how to use your IRA, and all the different facets of investing in notes. And so if you go on this platform, it's a regular educational platform. So, and I've got great little videos, like a little 1-minute video of what you're going to learn. And then you go into the classroom and then I teach you. You can download the notes on it. There's transcripts to it. There's quizzes, so you can go through and see if you really learned what you should learn from it. And so it's in a very organized fashion, so that you could just go in order through each classroom. And when you get done, you would have a very good handle on all of the aspects of note buying that I teach. And then let's say you did want to learn, maybe you really wanted to learn more about how to work with investors. You could go to any of the older things that we call them our my legacy materials. You could go back to the 2017 Academy or the 2019 Academy, and you can go through anything there and you could get supplemental information. I'll tell you where that might come in handy is like if you want to listen to role plays, because every academy we had different people role playing. So that would really be worthwhile to go back and do. But at the same time, if you can listen to role plays right on the online academy. So it just makes everything at your fingertips and much easier to go through the material completely. So if you have bought my system since January 1 of 2022, this is the special offer that I have for you. You can get access to the online academy plus 6 months of coaching, which in and of itself is a $997 value. And you can come to the workshop free. That's another $300. You can get that for $1297. So essentially you're getting the academy free. If you need to upgrade your coaching, if your coaching has expired, why not upgrade to the online academy, where you can get the online academy, 6 months of coaching. And actually it's 8 months because I'm going to start it right now, but the clock doesn't start until January 1, since we're coming into the holidays. And you'll get the workshop. So you can get all of that for $1297. Matthew was supposed to be with me and he had something that came up. So I was not able to get the link to put on the screen for you. That's why thankfully Bill came and saved the day as the moderator. But if you email me at donna@thenotebuyer.com tomorrow, Matthew will send you the link and you could update everything for $12.97. For those of you whose materials are older than that, email me and let me know you want that upgrade. And Matthew's got a special deal for you as well that will be a good savings. And I'll just let him reply because he normally handles all that for me. Okay, any questions?
Any questions, folks? I know Donna gave a lot of really good information tonight. I do encourage you to take advantage of a few minutes here and ask any questions you have.
I'm going to put up these dates so you can mark your calendar so you don't miss anything. So Monday, the 27th of November, that's your last day to sign up and get the early bird special. So you save $100. So make sure that you sign up before Monday, the 27th. The option workshop is December 2nd, and the Christmas party and follow-up Q&A is December 8th. Okay. You're muted again, Bill.
You're very welcome, Joan.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
Donna, Bob asks, are you covering how to find partial deals?
I'm not actually covering that at the workshop because there would not be time. It's going to take the full day, but I will tell you this, Bob. You're going to, you go to the online academy and go through marketing for seller carrybacks because you're going to do regular marketing. There's nothing special that you do to find a partial. It's a matter of when you're evaluating a note and you're thinking about buying it, if it's not a good note to buy because it's too high of a loan to value, or you're worried about the borrower's credit, or they didn't have enough down payment, then you will see that, hey, I'm just going to buy part of the note, and that would make it a safer deal. So it's not that you market specifically for partials. You do your regular marketing, and then when you see an opportunity, especially ones that you'd have to just say, sorry, this is a turn down, then you look at it and see if you can do a partial. Okay.
The only thing I'd add, and Donna, I'm sure we'll cover this at her workshop, there may be certain characteristics of a note that you might want to buy and then sell a partial on. For example, if the note is too short of a term, it probably wouldn't be a very good fit to try to buy and sell a partial on. So
that's true.
Donna does have a great marketing section on finding notes, though, in her materials.
Thank you. The partials, the ones that I like to keep in my IRA, where I keep the tail end, they're typically the ones that are the longer term because you get a greater discount. If there's 25 years left on it, you're going to be buying that at a greater discount. So, and the ones that I keep are ones that I think the people might refinance, or I think they're going to sell. Like if I'm talking to a note seller, well, it's usually when I'm talking to the borrower, because before I close on buying it, I always do a phone call with the borrower. And if they say, well, we really are hoping that we can sell next year because we plan to move so-and-so. A light goes on. And I think, oh, this might be one where I want to keep it. And so that would be one, especially if I'm buying it at a large discount, that would probably be one where I try to keep the tail end for myself. So that's how you do it. It's identifying the partials. And actually, Bob, that's a great idea for like a weekend seminar. So I am going to write that down. How to identify partial purchases. You market for them the same way, but maybe we need to have a webinar so you can see when you're evaluating a note, what would make a good partial. Thank you for that. Any other?
Yes, Donna, Randy asks, So will the new partial note information being presented on December 2nd be updated in your online course material in greater detail? The marketing, contracts, and such for the partials.
That is a good question. I think what we came up with was that you need to buy the 297. I think that is the fair way to do it. I'm very big about adding things to what I've already taught you and giving you as much as I can. But this is so unique, and it's really a standalone thing. And at 297, it's so affordable. I mean, it's worth, like I said, it literally, if you tried to get an attorney to put this together, I don't think you'd find one, honestly. So I'm going to say that you need to pay the 297. We're going to have replays of it. So if you pay 297, like if you can't make it December 2nd, just go ahead and buy the 297 and you'll get all of the documents and you'll get the video replays of it and everything, and you'll have everything you need. I mean, it's a great buy at 297. It really is.
And then Donna, Timothy adds here, I'm not sure if this would be to add to the December 2nd course or your materials, but he says, establish a decision tree for identifying good partial potential situations.
Okay, I will take that into account. I have done, I call it a time, what do I call it? You know, where you do the map and you map out, if this happens, then this. I think that's the same thing as what you mean. Let me take that into consideration as I start putting notes down. But what I'll do is I will plan on a webinar of identifying partial purchases, and that'll be just like tonight. It'll be a free webinar, and we'll put that into the online academy. Okay.
Other than that, Donna, you've had a number of thank yous and praise, and just
Thank
a
you.
number of people saying they are signing up.
Great.
This is getting to be your last call for questions, folks. I don't think, Donna, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you had much else to present tonight. If
Nope,
anyone
that's
else
it.
has any questions, then let us know.
Thank you all for being on the call. Thank you for your kind words, and I hope you can make it on Saturday. I would love to have you there. I think you'll love it. Okay. Everybody take care. Have a great night. Thank you.